Welcome back into Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across this OutKick network. Thrilled to be joined by Coach Tommy Tuberville. Also happens to be a senator, but on this show here, we call him Coach Tuberville, joining us right now. And Coach, appreciate you taking the time to join us in what is once again and always is a pretty crazy time up on Capitol Hill.
Well, for the last 4 years, it's been crazy. Now with President Trump in trying to reverse all the craziness that Joe Biden and his administration did, it's number one, it's fun to watch. Number two, it's going to be painful in a few areas, but at least we've got a game plan now. There was no game plan for 4 years, and we're going back in the right direction. Everything pretty much has been reversed. But thanks for having me on, and look forward to talking about it.
Yeah, and what's watching on television is one thing, but I'm curious just what the overall vibe was in the building during the address to Congress the other night. You could hear a lot of distractions happening throughout the chamber, but I'm curious from your perspective what it was like being there.
Well, first of all, I went to all four of Joe Biden's speeches. I think that's all he gave the whole time he was a president. And you could tell he was all jacked up. He never blinked. He just kind of read through it real quick. There was no enthusiasm, number one. I kind of put it in perspective of being a football coach and hour and a half before the game, Joe Biden, there was a few TV cameras around, not much talk, not much excitement. But my gosh, the other day it was overboard. It was like having the Super Bowl, and it was getting ready for kickoff. And it didn't disappoint us when President Trump came in, and the Democrats. They've lost their party. They've lost their way. They have no plan whatsoever. All they want to do is disrupt a guy trying to do his job, and they tried to do that. They got a little out of hand, but we knew that was coming. But President Trump gave a great speech, and it was fun to watch the Democrats make fools out of themselves by not standing up when they should have on several occasions, which we did when Joe Biden was in. When there was something important that people's feelings were involved, we all stood up and clapped, and that's the way it's supposed to be.
Well, and for the party that's supposed to be about feeling and humanity and everything else, that was a weird juxtaposition to witness. And not only that, but you had some Congress women, senators also in pink to support women. And yet those same people voted down a bill that would have supported women that I know you've been working diligently on, Coach, to try to protect women and girls in sports against men and boys invading their sports. Yet that was somehow because of, I guess, the hatred of the president or the other side, it was voted down. What was your reaction when that happened?
Well, it's the hatred of not just President Trump, but for our country, the way that we've been run for almost 250 years now. Our birthday's next year. They hate a constitutional republic. They hate the opportunity for people to do what they want to do. They hate free speech. And again, President Trump is upending all the things that they stand for. And it's humiliating to watch these people just absolutely crush the Democratic Party, which has been very strong in my lifetime. But they don't stand for anything. You've got to stand for something, and don't worry about power. All they won't worry about is, hey, we just want power. Well, that's not what it's about. It's about helping the American people. How about thinking about that for once? They never think about that. So, again, I hate it for the Democrats across the country that actually still believe in this country. But the clowns that are up here, they could care less about the United States of America. They care about their control of what they can get out of what people have.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned free speech in that. I know President Trump mentioned free speech is back also, but in that address was talking about protests on campus and withholding federal funding. Is there a fine line between peaceful protest and what's allowable versus what the president is talking? And is it a slippery slope when you start talking about withholding federal funding for colleges that, I guess, quote unquote, allow these things to take place?
Well, we need peaceful protests. We've had them in my entire lifetime. Of course, they got out of hand back during Vietnam when I was growing up. But the American people have always had the right to speak their piece. And whether it's on college campuses, whether it's in front of a federal building, whatever, you get a chance to let people know what you think. Now, there's a difference between pushing cops around, doing things that they're not supposed to do, going into buildings, putting rags on their heads, mask over their face. not doing things in a lawful manner. And again, going back to, hey, protest all you want, but do it the right way. Show your face. My God, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid because that you're being paid by some outside organization and you don't want to be identified? That's exactly what's happening. So we need to go back to the Constitution and have free speech. Thank God for Elon Musk and X, because people now get a lot of their news from guys like you that have a podcast that you allow people to speak their piece, like me today, a U.S. senator saying, "Hey, this is what I believe." But free speech is probably the number one thing that will continue to make our country great.
Athlete, dad, coach, senator, you've had a lot of different titles in your lifetime. Will we be adding governor at some point to those titles that you've had?
That's been a big topic, and I don't want to put the emphasis on me. I don't do this for ego or money or anything. I'm giving back to my state of Alabama and to the people of this country. My first order of business when I got out of coaching, I said, I worked for ESPN for a while, and I said, I'm going to do some public service. So I'm going to run for governor. Well, they had some mix-ups in the governor's race, and the lieutenant governor moved up. So I didn't run against Kay Ivey. I think she's done a good job. But at the end of the day, I said, I'm doing something. So I ran for this job, worked very hard to win it. I won it. Now the governor's job is going to be open, and I got to make a decision. I really enjoy helping the American people and people of Alabama by doing this job, or do I want to go back and be the CEO of the state and make decisions there? I'll make that decision probably in the next few months. But again, it's about giving back, and it's not being ego. I could care less about being called senator or governor. I want to help.
I'm here in Nashville today, and we got a little bit of sunshine outside, but it's still in the 40s. But I see that little bit of sunshine every spring, and it gets me excited for what's to come. So when I read about a Sunshine Protection Act, I get excited when I hear about that. It sounds like a pretty great idea. What can you tell us about this bill and what you're trying to get through?
I think most people would love to have longer days. And you got a few people that say, well, I don't want my kids going to school in the dark. Well, wait a minute. You're either going to go to school in the dark, or you're going to come home in the dark, one or the other. But I think people would love more daylight. It's a good health procedure. Vitamin D, kids outside, get them away from the TV or computer or PlayStation, go play golf, hunting, fishing, doing things outside, I think is very vital to what we do here in this country. So I would love for President Trump to help me out on this. Hey, do an executive order. We start Sunday. We start, daylight savings time, and he's got 4 years. How about we just do it 4 years and give it a shot and see what people think about it? But he's got to make that decision. But we're going to try to get it passed up here, and if we can, we'll see what happens.
So, Coach, every time we get you on the show, we don't want to just ask you about the things you're getting asked about all the time and talking about the things you're talking about all the time. We're going to get into a little bit of sports with you. And it has been incredible to watch your state of Alabama become the mecca of college basketball in the last couple of years, especially this season. I understand that you're going to be at Auburn this weekend taking in the Alabama-Auburn game. What an incredible game it was the first go around, and a couple of great teams and great programs you're going to get to watch in that game.
Yeah, two of the top basketball teams in the country. I went to Auburn in '99. You could shoot a gun in the building and during the game not hit anybody. Now kids are standing outside, sleeping outside in tents, waiting to get in, not just for the Alabama game coming up, but for most of the games this year. It's packed. Bruce Pearl's done an outstanding job, got a real good team. By the way, we're coming to Nashville. Get ready. The whole state of Alabama's coming with University of Alabama and its fans, Auburn and its fans, and of course fans from all over. I think Florida right now might be the best team playing. That's not taking away anything from anybody else. I tell you, they've been real consistent. But sports is so important. To our state and Alabama, and then to all over the country. It's fun to be around. I just hate this NIL is going to put a kink in the armor. We might be able to overcome it and see if we can make it last. But I tell you right now, we're seeing a lot of people that are turning away from college sports because, and not in our state, but across the country, because players are getting paid all this money. And I'm for players making money, but it's really gotten out of hand.
It's amazing to think about your time in coaching in that era, 90s, 2000s, and the rise of college basketball in the SEC from then until now, where Kentucky would sell out your building, when they came to town. But now every single night, every weekend in the SEC, you could have 13 teams in the NCAA tournament. It's been amazing to watch that evolution. Still a football conference, but the basketball in the SEC has been terrific. Speaking of football, I did want to ask you about this because for many years it was, football season and then spring football season was the other season. Well, now we're seeing a lot of spring games go away. From the coach's perspective, did you enjoy the process of a spring game? Did you dread it? Do you understand that we may be getting to a point where we're going to not see any spring games anywhere in America?
Yeah, I hate that because practice makes perfect. And I use spring practice for the younger kids. If there were seniors or guys that had started all the year before, we obviously had some practices, but most of the spring practice was geared toward all the underclassmen to find out, hey, do we have you in the right spot? Do you need to change position? And it's only last 15 practices, but yeah, you're going to have players that are going to probably get together and say, hey, let's do away with spring practice because we do spring practice, we're going to transfer to another school. And that's the power that this NIL gives them. But we don't need to ruin a good product. You need a spring ball. Again, it's only, to me, it's for the younger players and do as much as you possibly can to make them better because sometimes you got to, sooner or later, you got to teach blocking and tackling because there's a proper way to do it and you makes it more safe when you have the time to do it.
You remember a time in an era where freshmen couldn't play varsity college sports, and now you have a COVID year for players, and there's a push to make JUCO players not count against their eligibility, their time in junior college. I think that's a big problem for the sport and roster management. But is a possible compromise, coach, to just make a blanket fifth year of eligibility for everyone instead of going the route of saying JUCO years don't count against college eligibility?
Yeah, they're going to have to do something, or what's going to happen is you're going to have lawsuits, which NCAA can't. I mean, they hate lawsuits, and you're going to see no eligibility rule. That's hey, you come here and you can play as long as you want, because a lot of these players will never play in NFL, and they're going to make money in college, and you're going to see it go to a court, and it'll be ruled on now whether they will say, okay, there's no eligibility rules, you can play as long as you want in whatever sport you're in. That will make it very interesting. But when they start giving back junior college years, the next thing up is just giving back all the years and play as long as they'll let you play.
Are you optimistic? One last one for you that with everything President Trump is doing, I know how the votes went in the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, but are you confident that pretty much everywhere is going to follow suit and understand that this should not be happening in sports? And are they going to adhere to what the president is saying about withholding funding and all those things? Or is there a major fight still ahead with all of this?
Oh, there's going to be a fight. There's going to be a big fight because you got about half the states in this country that are all progressive and they hate gender. I don't know what they have against women and girls and sports in general. I think they just don't like sports, but I think you're going to have a big fight. Look at what happened in Maine with the governor there. She's still allowing it to happen, men and women's sports. You've got actually some teams out west that are women's teams that are totally transition boys. I want you to think about that. The whole group. So what's happening there is they're disallowing young girls to participate because there's no room for them. And so we keep this up. There'll be a big fight all over the country with this. And of course, President Trump's trying to help federally, but we've got to have governors step up too and say enough's enough of this nonsense. And we haven't seen the end of it, but it breaks my heart to see that what Title IX has done in the last 50 years has been the best thing to happen up here. Now they're trying to tear it down.
Senator slash coach or coach slash senator, however you want to look at it, Tommy Tuberville from the great state of Alabama has been our guest. Coach, we always appreciate the time. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
thank
for
you.
hopping on with us.
Thank you.